What happens to your body as you age? The key points out of everything that I'm going to say right now is muscle mass and strength peak around 30 to 35 years of age. It's a little bit later for men. And then peak bone mass is achieved between 25 and 30 years. Don't let these numbers stress you out or intimidate you at all because this is normal. This is all normal stuff. So, as we get older, we naturally start to lose muscle mass and strength. This is called sarcopenia. So that's the image right there on the right, kind of what a healthy muscle looks like. You see all of that pink muscle tissue within that muscle. And then as we begin to age, we naturally lose that muscle mass. So that pink part of that photo is going to shrink a little bit. And you'll see that lighter yellow in the image, and that is going to be fatty tissue. So with the shrinking of muscle mass, you kind of have this result of an increased fat storage. So just kind of keep that in mind. So like I said, it's a completely normal part of aging, but it can increase the risk of falls. It can make it harder to manage conditions like diabetes. It can affect memory, so any cognitive processes, and it can even impact how long we live. So over time, this loss can lead to a loss of independence and then make everyday tasks more and more difficult. On the same hand, bone loss also speeds up as we age, usually around 45 to 50. And unfortunately, for women, this does happen faster during menopause due to lower estrogen levels. So men experience a slower decline since testosterone drops more gradually. But by age about 65, we are all in the same boat. Bone loss happens at about that same rate for everybody at that age. From that point on, bone mass continues to decrease over time. So not only does our muscle mass begin to decrease, our bone mass begins to decrease. And like I said, this information might sound a little intimidating or scary. You're like, oh my God, all my muscle's gone, all my bones are gone. Don't worry. Every human being goes through these things. The key takeaway from today is that you have control over how quickly these changes happen. And that's what we're focusing on. And we're going to be focusing on the impact of functional training and how you can slow down some of these processes so that you can maintain that independence. You can lower your risk of injury. You can lower your risk of falls. All of that is going to be covered today. So, sarcopenia. So this is that muscle mass loss, like we saw in that photo, that muscle tissue begins to shrink. So before we talk about functional training, we're going to look at muscle strength and bone loss a little bit more closely. So like I said, although aging tends to be the dominant factor, research has found other possible risk factors for sarcopenia. These may include physical inactivity, obesity, chronic diseases, insulin resistance, decreased hormones, malnutrition / not getting enough protein. So although age is kind of that dominant factor that we have no control over, these are the risk factors that you may have control over. Some of the signs of muscle loss, so that's sarcopenia, include feeling more fatigued. If you're having really, really hard time, like climbing the stairs or just walking, struggling with your balance, experiencing more falls, or finding everyday tasks become much harder than before. Doctors can test for sarcopenia with simple tests like timing how fast you walk or how easily you can stand up from a chair. A lot of these diagnoses don't really happen because, like I said, this is kind of something that happens naturally. And the good news is there really isn't a treatment that involves medication. So this isn't going to be like your chronic diseases that you'll take medication to maintain or slow down. It's going to be all about your lifestyle changes. So that's good. We have control over that. We don't have to take a medication. We just have to take a look at our lifestyle. So staying active, eating a balanced diet can help slow down that muscle loss and keep you strong. Also, your routine physicals. Go to the doctor, be in communication with a primary care physician so that when you start experiencing things out of the norm, you can be like, hey, what's going on and how do I approach it. So key takeaway, losing muscle as you age, completely normal, but how fast it happens is within your control. Kind of brings that conversation of health span versus lifespan. You could live to 120, right? Let's just say hypothetically you live that long, which is fantastic. But if you start to lose your independence and your function at around 90, how much quality do you have in those extra years? So, engaging in a physically active lifestyle, making healthy food choices with high quality protein at every meal, and staying on top of your physicals, mentioning any concerns to your physician that you may have, are ways that you can kind of help maintain muscle mass and strength as you continue to age. Let's take a look at bone mass now. Similar to muscle mass loss, bone loss happens at a natural rate, happens normally, but there are certain factors that can speed it up. These include physical inactivity, a poor diet, smoking is a big one, low estrogen levels, and then certain medical conditions like hyperthyroidism, rheumatoid arthritis, and celiac disease. To catch bone loss early, the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force actually recommends bone density screenings for all women 65 and older, as well as younger women who have a higher risk of fractures. Early testing can detect osteopenia, which is bone loss, the stage before osteoporosis. Now, osteoporosis is bone loss at an accelerated rate, and it is no longer reversible. So once you get to that point, it's a lot more difficult to manage. So it's important, again, go to your physicals, talk to your doctor, keep your risk factors low, because there is a certain point with bone loss that you cannot go backwards. You cannot maintain, you cannot reverse anymore. So recommended testing for men begins at age 70. So if there's any men in here, you guys are just a little bit more lucky than the women in this regard, unfortunately. But just be aware of these things. It is a lot more prominent as you age. So this time, this age range is when you really start to focus on the importance of maintaining your muscle mass and your bone mass. So you have control right now to help prevent that loss over time at a higher rate. All right, protecting your bones as you age. You'll see a common theme of regular exercise in here, and that's for a reason. Also, fortified diet, calcium, we love her. Avoid smoking, and then just be diligent. Again, this kind of goes back with getting your annual physicals, talking to your doctor. If you have those medical conditions or along the lines of that we mentioned earlier, like hyperthyroidism, rheumatoid arthritis, celiac disease, if you have certain medical conditions, your risk is higher. Just be aware of that and then talk to your doctor and kind of figure out what you can do best for you. All right, now onto the meat of this. What is functional training? So when it comes to our health, there are some things that we can't control. And that can feel really frustrating, like your age. Like I said, these things are going to happen regardless. You know, you could be the fittest person in the world, or you could not exercise at all. You're still going to lose muscle mass. You're still going to lose bone mass. But as we've seen, there are a few key lifestyle choices that are in your hands, that are in your control, especially staying active and eating a proper diet. These two factors play a huge role in keeping your body strong and healthy as you continue to age. And again, the age group right now, prior to hitting late 60s, 70s, is a really crucial part of your life to start doing some of these preventive measures. So I want you guys, I have to remove my heating pad. It's really cold in my office, but I want you guys to do something with me, okay? I'm gonna scoot back. Scoot all the way back, all right? If you have your lunch, go ahead and put it to the side real quick. Go ahead and put it to the side. Go ahead, put your feet flat on the floor. We're gonna stand up. We're just gonna stand up from our chair. So just stand up nice and tall and then sit back in your chair. Let's do it again. Stand up nice and tall, sit back in your chair. Let's do it one more time. Stand up, sit back in your chair. And look, you are already a functional training pro as of today, because this is what functional training is. It is training your body for everyday activities. You know, you are seeking to build strength, flexibility, balance for navigating the world around you and the objects in it. Think about how often you stand up and you sit down. That strength is going to continue to be important, and it directly translates into a movement like squats, for example. So look at that. You're a pro. You don't even need me anymore. That could end the webinar right now, but we're not going to do that. Oh, is there something in the chat real quick? Yeah, and then Kelly mentioned, you know, thanks to Hinge Health, you can do standing up, sitting down without holding on to anything. And that is fantastic progress as well in terms of balance and coordination. So there's always a time to start. I also don't want any of this to stress you out and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be fragile and to fall down and break all my bones. No, take a breath, take a second. There is always a time for you to start. If you don't currently exercise, that's okay. You can start. If you don't have a good diet, that's okay. You can start. You just have to know your resources and your tools around you and the importance of these things for you to begin doing them. And if you currently do them, fantastic. Keep doing them. So ultimately, functional fitness is just training for real life. It's training for every day. So what impact does functional training have on muscle? What does this matter to muscle? Functional exercises like squats, lunges, a shoulder press, an upright row, they mimic your everyday movements, helping maintain and build muscle mass and strength for movements that you use every single day. Improved muscle strength can help prevent falls and injuries. Loss of muscle mass and strength can cause stiffness and discomfort, which can restrict movement. So functional exercises really help to improve the range of motion around a joint. Let's take your shoulder, for example. As you continue to exercise, maybe something like reaching up over your head begins to become a little bit easier because your shoulder is used to now working in this range of motion. So it helps make those movements smoother and a little less uncomfortable as well. Muscle loss slows down your metabolism as well. So as you lose muscle, your metabolism begins to slow down because muscle helps burn calories even at rest, which can lead to increased fat storages if you have that muscle loss, which we saw from that photo. Remember, that pink part began to shrink, so that muscle began to shrink, but all that like light yellow around it seemed to have more. So you have that increased fat, but a decreased muscle mass. So incorporating regular exercise helps preserve that muscle mass by keeping your metabolism active and supporting a healthy weight. I want to take a second to focus on this improved endurance, less fatigue, because I think this is a side effect, if you will, of training that is often forgotten about. So let's say you walk only as much as you have to without any extra movement throughout your day, right? So you walk to and from your car, you walk in the grocery store, but you're not really doing a whole lot more, okay? Let's say you and your family, you're going to Disney for the weekend, right? You're super excited, super stoked. You're going to go both days, you know, because you got money like that. But you're going to the Disney for both days. Your body is not going to be used to walking more than necessary, which can result in fatigue and even pain. So imagine you intentionally incorporate cardio for just 15, 30 minutes a day. You're just walking 15 to 30 minutes more a day. You are improving that muscular endurance, allowing you to stay active for longer without feeling so exhausted and in pain. So you can kind of help yourself now to help yourself in the future, if that makes sense. For example, I went on a hiking vacation, right? And this was a couple of years ago. And I'm like, I don't think my body can withstand that. So I started adding a little bit more cardio. I added the stair climber for cardio to get my body used to these things that I knew were going to tire me out if I did not try to acclimate to them. I went on my hiking vacation, Grand Canyon, first day, gone. I was down and up, climbing, living my best life. screaming the entire time, but it was a lot of fun. But you have to allow yourself and your body to get used to certain things before you begin to push it like that. Otherwise, like I said, you kind of run that risk of fatigue, pain, and we don't want that, right? So, bone loss. We talked about the impacts it has on muscle. What impact does it have on your bones? So, weight-bearing exercises. And I may say that more than once during the webinar, but it literally just means an exercise in which you have weight, which this could mean just walking. You know, as you walk and you step, you have the entire weight of your body involved in the movement. So that's like a weight-bearing exercise. But anyways, weight-bearing exercises help stimulate bone formation, which helps slow down bone loss and can even improve your bone density. To simplify this, why would your bones need to be strong if there's no stimulus for them to adapt to? If you don't really do a whole lot of activities that require your bones to be strong, why would they need to be strong? And vice versa. If you're walking a lot, if you're lifting weights, if you're doing yoga, you are telling your body that you need it to be functional and you need it to be strong during these movements to help support you. So your body will adapt to these movements that you are doing. Stronger bones and muscles, so together, they help prevent fractures, especially in areas prone to osteoporosis, like your hips and your wrists, so in your smaller joints. Functional exercise also improves stability and proprioception, which we'll get into that in a second, lowering the risk of falls, which are a major cause of fractures in older adults. So proprioception, think of it as body awareness. It is your ability to sense and freely move your limbs, and it can worsen with age, injury, disease, making daily tasks harder and increasing your risk of injury and falls. For example, right? You experience proprioception when you're walking and you detect a small deviation in your path, such as a crack or a rock. Your body knows how to respond to that. You know, maybe you step on a rock, your ankle turns a little bit, but your body's like, oh, we stepped on a rock, we're turning a little bit, let's correct that. That sense of your body awareness does deteriorate as we age, but doing exercises helps keep that brain strong and sharp to help reduce the risk of falls that come from that deterioration. Stronger muscles around joints reduce stress on bones and cartilage, so easing discomfort usually associated with bone loss. So as the bone begins to deteriorate, like I said, natural, it happens. Don't worry about it too much. We're worrying about the rate at which this happens and how you can prevent it from happening too quickly. But having strong muscles around these joints can help ease that bone loss. And then kind of lastly with hormones, resistance training can increase testosterone and growth hormone levels temporarily, both of which support bone maintenance. So kind of how we talked that men experience a lot of this stuff later on is due to those higher testosterone levels than typically seen with women. So exercise kind of temporarily spikes those hormones to kind of give you that quick increase, if you will. So it helps support that bone maintenance. All right. How do you do this? What does this mean? How is this relevant to you, and what can you do to incorporate it? So you understand why functional training is important to keeping you healthy and mobile and independent as you age. Functional training is going to be any exercise or movement that translates to an everyday movement. Typically, these incorporate multiple muscle groups. So think full body exercises. So let's look at a few examples. A single leg deadlift, that first photo, that is incorporating multiple muscles, your balance, your coordination. A push-up, either on your toes or on your knees, don't really matter, is incorporating your entire upper body and your core. Think of a squat. your core, lower body, quads, hamstrings, glutes, calves, multiple muscle groups. And I mentioned yoga earlier. It doesn't have to be weight training in order for it to be weight bearing. Any exercise that you are doing that is in control of your body is a weight bearing exercise. And then lastly, kind of that photo on the edge, an overhead press. This mimics lifting things up over your head, bringing them down overhead. It's important to have that control and stability as well. And then also to quickly mention walking, this can also be chalked up to walking. Walking is a full body exercise. So you may be thinking, how does this type of training differ from non-functional exercise? Non-functional quotes here, exercise works only one muscle or muscle group in one part of the body. For example, think of isolating exercises like a bicep curl or a calf raise. This is not to say that these exercises are not beneficial, because they are. You just need to think of your personal priorities. If you are looking for overall strength, balance, coordination for everyday life, and you're not super interested in being in the gym more than you need to be, you're going to want to put your energy into movements that work the entire body. But if you feel like you don't have a lot of upper body strength or want killer looking arms, then absolutely throw in some bicep curls. The reason functional training, like these photos in the PowerPoint, are effective for healthy aging is because it engages multiple muscle groups at once, improving coordination, balance, and the overall body strength. So, what are your recommendations? How should you do this? 4 to 6 exercises per session. That's roughly 45 minutes or so. 2 to 4 times a week. You don't have to work out every single day, okay? Don't let that overwhelm you. Don't let the numbers get too crazy. You know, if you are currently not exercising and you're going to jump to 5 days a week, is that super reasonable for you? Start with reasonable goals, attainable goals. A comfortable rep and set range. So 3 sets of 12 to 15 reps. This means doing an exercise 3 separate times for 12 to 15 times. So say it's an overhead press. You're going to do 12 reps. So you're going to do it 12 times. You're going to rest 45 to 90 seconds. Then you're going to do another set of 12 reps. Then you're going to rest. And then you're going to do your third set of 12 reps. So that's kind of how sets and reps look. And then between each exercise, you're resting about 1 to 2 minutes, enough to take a breath, hang out for a second. Before I move on to some resources, are there any questions from anybody so far? Take a second to pause before we get into some fun stuff. This is all fun, depending on who you are. All right, no questions so far. I'll keep an eye on the chat just in case. All right. Popping over into some resources. So I will be sending out the PowerPoint to you guys, and I do have one of these tabs open to show you. So can you guys see that? It should be an exercise library tab. Yes, indeed. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so if you're not aware, my background is personal training. And as much as I would love to be there with all of you throughout all of your workouts, I can't. We have a little thing in the chat. Okay, cool. I cannot do that. So I am providing you guys with some exercise libraries. Think of this as a little Sydney in your pocket as you train, okay? So this is just one of the examples I have to navigate this, because it can be overwhelming looking at this, especially if you've never done this before, or you're not really sure where to start. You're going to go over here for this specific tab, training splits. We are going to take a look right here with compound exercises. So a compound exercise is multiple muscle groups versus an isolation exercise, which is isolating one muscle group, which is not really what we're looking for in terms of functional training. So we'll click on compound, and you're going to have a whole ton of stuff to look at. Okay. Take a look at this stuff, maybe pick 4 of them, pick 4 of them. All right. And go for it. We're going to take a look at some floor dips. So it'll show you how to do the exercise, the type it is. The primary muscle group in this is going to be the triceps on the back side of your arm, but you also pull in your core, some glutes, lower body. It's also going to pull in your shoulders because you're supporting your entire body weight. So this is kind of just an example of some exercises that you can do if you're not sure where to start. And like I said, this is super expansive. I mean, it just keeps going. And I believe they have an app as well, but there are different exercises that you can do. So this is an RDL, a Romanian deadlift. Primary muscle group is going to be glutes and hamstrings, but you pull in core, lower back, even upper body because you're holding a weight. So these would be considered compound exercises. And just real quick, I'm going to show you the difference with an isolation exercise. This is a skull crusher. So this is this purpose of this exercise is really to only target the backside of your arm for your triceps. So that is the difference in exercises. Think compound when you think functional training. You want exercises that pull in multiple muscle groups. Almost think you get more bang for your buck. Not a bad way of thinking about it. Go ahead and close that down. And we have a few minutes if you guys have any questions, but I kind of just want to say, life is rough as we age, coming from your 26-year-old wellness tech. But I also want to emphasize that these processes are normal. These things are going to happen regardless, but a lot of you are in an age range right now where you can begin to prevent the rapid loss at which some of these things happen. And your key lifestyle factors that you can control, because it's no use to you to focus on things that you cannot control. What's the point? It's just going to give you anxiety. We don't need that. Focus on your diet, focus on your lifestyle habits like exercise, and make sure you're being regular with your screenings as well. Make sure you're having an open line of communication with your physicians. That's their job. Okay. I'm going to take a quick look at the chat, see what's up. Stephen, I don't think it's a paid subscription. I was not logged into anything viewing that website just now. I don't know about the app though. I don't have the app, so don't quote me on that. But I will download it soon and I'll get back to you guys.
So Sydney, I think you need to develop something called Pocket Sydney. Because I just got the hugest kick out of that. And I think everybody needs a Pocket Sydney. But I love the presentation today. It's as a person who is in that age range, I can tell you that I've already seen some of those things happen and happening. And so it's good to know that some of it's reversible. Mm-hmm. One thing that is a big issue for me, and I'm hoping we can devote some content to it later on, is more about balance, regaining balance, strengthening balance, those sorts of things, especially after an injury. Like for instance, me, I broke an ankle years ago. And so that's affected my balance on that one side. So if you could be thinking along those lines, I think that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to balance, I think it's always important to incorporate unilateral movement. So just so for example, let's just take a shoulder press because you guys can see me in frame here. You would work one arm at a time, which helps kind of strengthen those muscles on each side because we're kind of all imbalanced. We're humans, it's natural, it's life, whatever. But you may have one leg or one ankle that is stronger than the other, that when you do an exercise that requires both legs, that stronger one may take over. So it's important to try to incorporate some strength training. It doesn't have to be super crazy. You don't have to be pushing, 50 pounds on a leg extension with one leg, but it's important to incorporate some unilateral training where you do one leg at a time or one arm at a time or one side of the body at a time due to those imbalances. But yeah, no, definitely balance is a huge thing, and strength training can help improve that. And I'll get to work on the pocket Sydney concept.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And y'all on the webinar, feel free to chime in. You don't have to use the chat. Just unmute yourselves and start chatting.
Yeah, like I said, if you guys have any questions, let me know. And if you're not comfortable asking in a platform like this, you can always send me an email. My contact and the wellness program contact is on this slide. So feel free. And like I said, I will be sharing the slide presentation with you guys. And Stephen, I will download the app. I'll do a little recon on it and see if you have to pay to use it on the phone. But I know for sure the website version, like I said, I didn't have to log in and it's free to use. So definitely. You're welcome, Linda. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I know you guys have a ton of other things to worry about in life, and some of this kind of gets put on the back burner, but it is really important. And I want to emphasize its importance, but I also want to emphasize how easy it is to incorporate some of these things, 30 minutes of your day, twice a week for some strength training so that you can maintain your independence as you get older. It seems like a fair trade-off for me. So thank you guys for your feedback, and I'm glad I was able to do this for you.
Hey, Sydney.
What's up?
I don't know if anybody else that's on this call is a member of the the local Y MCA. And I just joined recently, and I thought it was kind of cool. They have I think it's 3 free sessions with a personal trainer. And so I've done a couple, and the lady that's been doing it with me gave me basically some of these functional exercises that did multiple, because I mean, without really asking for it, but we were talking about which muscle groups, and because I felt like I was not doing a well-rounded workout with the weights, and I wanted to make sure and try to capture as many muscle groups. So anyway, just an FYI in case anybody else is a Y member.
Yeah, no, that's great information. And I'll give you guys a little inside scoop while we're here. In terms of kind of YMCA and gyms, obviously you guys have free access to the wellness center in downtown Clearwater, but we know that's not always convenient for people. Communications will be going out soon for a program called One Pass. It is through UMR, so those on the county plan will have access to it. It kind of works how Active and Fit Direct worked, where you pay a flat monthly fee plus the enrollment fee, and then you get access to a ton of gyms in your area. So keep an eye out for those communications. I believe it is already on the UMR website if you wanted to dig around for it yourself. But if you currently don't have access to a facility, that is a really great value for you to be able to have access to.
You know,
So
it's
keep an eye
funny
out.
you mentioned that, Sydney, because I was getting ready to say it too. And if anybody wants to take a look now before you get your communication about it, you can go on to umr.com, look under the Health Center menu, and it is listed right under the link that takes you to Live Well rewards. And just as an FYI, certain levels of the membership actually bring you some other perks as well, including free delivery from Shipt and Walmart and a free AARP membership. So because I have the inside information, I've already canceled my Instacart and joined Shipt and Walmart. And I also canceled my renewing AARP membership because now I get a free one. So yeah, check it out and stay tuned for that communication that's going to come out.
And I also wanted to quickly mention while we're on, I know I'm going to run out of time probably, but if you guys have to go, don't worry, you can go. And speaking of AARP, they do have a ton of resources on their websites. Let me see if I can pull it up. It won't take too much time if this takes too long. No, here we go. Okay, so like Kelly was just mentioning about AARP, And then, oh, Kelly, could you re-mention what you said about the AARP membership? Stephen was asking real quick.
Yes, if you sign up for OnePass, which you will find on the UMR homepage under the Health Center menu, OnePass is, like Sydney said, it was what the Active and Fit used to be, where you can join multiple gyms if you're interested. But with certain levels of OnePass, you also get free AARP membership, as well as Shipt, which is kind of like Instacart, and Walmart delivery for free as well. And so just take a look at umr.com. Go to the Health Center menu, look at OnePass, and you can kind of click around in it before you actually sign up to get more information. Now, I believe it's Thursday or Friday that we're going to be sending out our communication about OnePass with a ton more information, including we have a web page devoted to it as well. So if you don't get around to doing it before then, you can just wait for the communication to come out. Oh,
Yeah.
Sydney's got you. I didn't even notice that Sydney was clicking around. So I went ahead and joined just because I've used something like this before and I knew how great it was. So my menu level, my member level is classic. And that's what gets me the free grocery delivery, but also the AARP membership. And, you know, I was already paying for it, so why not get it for free? Oh, and I think I saw somewhere where there's a Paramount Plus. So I have to go click around in there and find that because I also pay for that. So yeah, a bunch of stuff I'm paying for I can get for free.
Bunch of perks. We could probably do a whole webinar on OnePass, but I just want to quickly mention the AARP. This is one of the links that I have on the PowerPoint to share with you guys. I am not logged in. I am not a member. I am not registered, but they have a ton of different resources on here. There is also free classes in AARP's virtual community center. So these videos you can just access. Let me just kind of speed this up real quick. And there she is. She's working out, so you can go full screen, and these are resources that are free. So there's a ton of stuff to kind of click around with, and I'm just do a quick example of these ones. So it'll say things like membership not required. And so these example, this is yoga. So a flow state fitness, a low impact kickboxing class, which is a full body workout, membership not required. And these are all virtual. So as much as I would love to have all of you in group fitness classes, I know that's not always reasonable, especially with certain people's timeframes, but these are virtual classes. So like I said, this is a resource on the PowerPoint that I will be sending out. So there's a ton of resources out there, and it can be super overwhelming if you're not sure where to start. But that's why you have us. That's why you have people in your wellness program to help show you how to get started on these things and how to keep it going. So if you have any questions outside of this presentation or about it, again, feel free to shoot us a message. This is what we're here for. We are here for you guys. So